We can't just talk about branding and just be this like branding's the thing and there's nothing else. We have to be clear. We are branding ourselves to what demographic, and that changes how we operate as well.
Kris Krohn here with the Kris Krohn Show, and I've been looking forward to this episode because I really want to crack heads open when it comes to the conversation of business owners doing this game of marketing versus branding. If you don't know what that's about, we're going to talk about it because I have wasted, I swear, millions of dollars on ineffective marketing, branding that didn't work. And I guess you could say I'm a little opinionated because especially in today's world with how rapidly it changes, it's so easy to throw money into marketing the wrong way and not have it actually give you what you want. So I decided to call upon a buddy of mine that I met years ago, Perez, who is a global branding expert, and we're gonna see if we can figure this one out. Ray, how we doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Thank you for having me on the show.
Dude, lots changed in your world since I met you last.
A lot has changed, that's right.
You've gone nomadic, man. You gave up the penthouse in, where were you? Are you in Miami or?
Brickell, yeah. I was in the tallest building in all of Florida, 76 floor, overlooking the entire city, glass walls everywhere, amazing. And I gave it up, and I'm just floating around nomadic for the first time in my life.
Really? Are you enjoying it?
I am.
You're going to Argentina?
It's a little scary, but yeah, I was in Mexico for 33 days, came back for a few events in Tampa, Florida, came down to Thanksgiving, visit the family for Christmas. I'm here for another event, visiting you, and then I'm going to Argentina, Brazil, and then who knows where.
So what makes you nervous about it?
It's almost like identity, kind of like having this place and having these cars, and I mean, you know how kind of that is.
You got your exotic cars, your Aston Martin, you got your super tricked out i8, the emerald green one, right?
I sold everything except the i8.
Okay, so first of all, you sold everything.
I had 2 slingshots. I had a Cadillac Escalade ESV for the clients and luxury. I had an AMG 63. I had the Aston Martin Vantage. And I just kept the i8. I had a motorcycle, scooter.
Why'd you keep the i8?
Because the i8's my baby.
It's too painful to get rid of.
No, that's my dream car.
How do you even get that to Argentina? You got to block that in somebody's garage, bro.
It's in my dad's garage.
Okay.
First time. You know what? I'm 42 years old, and I stayed at my parents' house for 2.5 weeks.
How does that feel?
That was weird.
Failure
in my old bedroom when I was 14, 15 years old, man. I haven't been there since I was 18. It was crazy.
No, that's wild. Same house, huh?
Same house.
That's also just as wild.
Right?
Okay, so listen, when I ran into you for the first time years ago, global branding expert, and part of me is like, okay, so you're a guy that goes out there and helps people either tune up their brands, discover what their brand is, helps them launch a bigger brand. Dude, I've seen you on stage with some of the really big names out there, Sharon Lecter and Jack Canfield and Les Brown and some of the greats. So you're out there a speaker, you're an author, you're a coach, you're on radio shows and podcasts. So you're out there, you're definitely branded. What brought you into branding in the first place?
Myself. I became my first client, and I started to notice the difference of what it did for me building that brand.
So who are you without a brand? I feel like I'm asking, how did you suck?
This is such a great question.
Yeah.
I am the same freaking person, but the world doesn't know.
Okay, so what was your accidental brand before you cultivated a mature, well thought out brand?
So what's interesting is I've been branding myself forever. Yeah. I just didn't know I was doing it.
Okay.
Now when I look back, I'm consciously aware. When I was in network marketing, I did the 90-day challenge, Visalis. I was selling the milkshakes.
Okay.
I branded myself as a fitness expert.
Okay.
I got the certification. I got the personal trainer, the sports nutrition. I had T-shirts, the whole 9 yards, because I wanted to be more credible in selling.
And it was fitness, so it was T-shirts.
Yeah, T-shirts and shorts. And
what about when I met you when it was all like freaking 3-piece suits and
Dude.
you were like, dude, you look hot. I'm suits and all.
Well, because then it went into coaching and consulting.
Okay.
And being on stage, and that was the thing to do then, right?
And now you got a little bit of a Jesus look. You got the long vesty, robes.
Yep.
What's going on now?
So
did you get in touch with your spiritual side?
I absolutely did.
I'm not making fun. I'm being serious.
No, 100%. I mean, I've always been a Christ follower. I've always shared my faith and everything, but I've gone more of the spiritual connection, spiritual path. And what's so crazy is on Amazon, you know how it's always listening, right? This cloak pops up on Amazon, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. maybe I'll order one and see what it looks like. So I ordered one in black and gray. I got it. I tried it on. I was like, wow, this feels kind of nice. And then I ordered it like in 5 different colors. And then I'm in South Beach at the Drum Circle in South Point. And I'm doing some acro yoga with some girlfriends of mine, and like you're holding them up and you're pushing them, and I'm wearing my gym shorts, and I'm like, man, this is like really like hard. So I went online and I started looking for like men's yoga pants, and I had these like 3/4 long pants. So when you see me in that, then I really got my Jesus look going on. But it's so comfortable and it's so flowy, and what's so interesting, it just happened organically. Like I didn't call in this new style because I consciously wanted to. I was already going down a spiritual path. And all of a sudden, the brand started creating itself.
Okay, so for everyone that's listening, I want to define and have a debate around the idea of branding versus marketing. And I'm going to introduce this. I don't know if you'll agree with it, but when I think of branding, I think of Coca-Cola, right? It's like everywhere you go, they slap that billboard up. They put their logo, their colors, their advertisements. And it's not even like they're saying anymore, drink Coke, drink Coke. All they're just doing is saying Coke is everywhere.
Yeah, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
Yes, I'm everywhere. And so I get you to subliminally think about it so that the next time you order something, you're thinking Coke. Like, and it seems like such a waste of money. Like this whole idea of I'm just going to spend all this money and get brand recognition. How on, like, what is branding, and respond?
Well, the reality is, it does feel like a waste of money. I totally agree with you, but Coca-Cola wouldn't be doing it if it was.
Yeah, I know.
And neither would McDonald's, right? So I always like to, like, if I was a, billion-dollar company, what would I be? Nike, right? Most recognized brand in the entire world. That swoosh is actually more recognizable than Coca-Cola in the world. That swoosh is the most recognized brand.
And I'm thinking then branding is for like billionaires. Like branding's for like really large companies. So what are you doing? Like doing the branding game with like individuals and small companies.
So yeah, let's talk about personal brand, right? And I get to use you as the example, right? The personal brand is the logo. You are the personal brand. That's why there's a face behind me and behind you of you, right? And to be honest with you, I'm doing the same thing, and so are a lot of other people that are personal branding that are realizing that you are your logo. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have company brands, because you have multiple company brands. Doesn't mean that you don't have events, programs, courses, which all should have a brand. You have your theme for your podcast. You have your theme for your program. You have your theme for your next event. Those are all brands. But you still need your personal brand, because with all those brands will not be as powerful without you. Without the personal brand. You think of Tesla.
But do you think that's because of me, or do you think that's because of social media? Like, because I'm an influencer, I'm recognized on social. If I wasn't recognized, would I still be my brand?
I think that social media has made things a lot easier for people. But prior to, let's go back to before 2000, before MySpace. Remember that?
Okay, so we're going way back.
Let's go pre-MySpace, right? Yeah. 1998, anything before that, it was either TV, radio, or newspaper magazine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, and I was just like, how do you, like, most people are advertising their business, not even like their persona. And it seemed like there was very few famous people in the world.
Correct.
There's only so many people that you can have on, TV and cable and then the internet obviously changed a lot, but social media, man, if I look at it as competition, it's like, yep, there's more influencers in force today. TikTok launched a whole new generation of influencers.
Well, think about this. A lot of people might not know. They might have heard of The Secret, the movie or the book, The Secret.
Yeah, remember. Yeah.
But prior to The Secret, there was this group called the Transformative Leadership Council.
Okay.
That was created by Jack Canfield and several of the other people in The Secret. Now, back then, this is in the 90s, right? They came together to support each other in transformational work. So they were like the original speakers, of personal development. And they were the only ones. And when that movie and the book, The Secret, came out, they exploded. And until this day, they're some of the most well-known people. But now, through social media, has disrupted anything.
Yep.
A regular person in their basement can become an influencer and can be well-known and build their brand.
There is this chick that has this catchy line in a song she wrote, and she sings it with so much emotion. You probably already know who it is when I say this if you're listening. And I'm like, she got 10 million followers on TikTok. Like I'm pretty sure the TikTok fund is carving out a pretty check. And all she does is sing that line, like everywhere she goes in different, like I'm in my friend's car, I'm going to sing it. I'm on top of a mountain, I'm going to see it. I'm at the mall, I'm going to sing it. And I'm like, this girl gets views, and she goes from a nobody to almost a household name. That's a lot of viewership and followers, right?
Well, so we can talk about two different things, right? There is, how do you leverage your brand in business?
Yeah.
Or how do you leverage your brand to become an influencer? Because that's a whole new demographic that was created that did not exist 10 years ago.
It's new.
So there's a business of leveraging your brand to make money with your business. But then there's a business of leveraging your brand to make money off your brand.
Yeah.
And you could do both. Like, you are in the space where you're someone who's actually in between both.
You know, it's interesting. So I used to spend a lot of money on brand stuff prior to social media. And part of me is like, okay, so why am I paying this money? It's not going to get me necessarily more recognition. But the idea was, well, let's make sure that we identify your brand with other brands that people think are smart and make sense. And let's also make sure you look well thought out, because when someone's going to decide whether they're going to do business with you, they don't want to hobnob with some junkie that just has no idea what they're doing. So let's make you look put together. Let's make sure your website is cohesive and your messaging is on point. And, you know, how do we want you to dress and in what colors? And it just seemed like this, to be kind of farce, like this farce show of like, blue is the color of trust. You know, because of my demographic, I should wear a suit even though I don't want to. And it felt, I don't know, dude, some of it just felt, I'm like, okay, is this like necessary evil stuff? I just want to be me. But people don't always respond to that. And so when it came to the business branding in the beginning, it was like, nope, necessary evil. You got to spend this money so that you look smart, you fit in your category, and you look like a competitor.
So here's what's interesting, right? Because some people will say, well, Gary Vee didn't have to do that. Right? Mark Zuckerberg didn't have to do that. But then I say, you're not Gary Vee and you're not Mark Zuckerberg, right? Because here is what happens, and it's already happened to you and it's happening to me. The more your brand gets built, can I bleep something out here?
Sure.
The more your brand gets built, the less of a fuck you give.
Tell me, like, break that down for me.
Why? Because you've done it already. You worn the suit. You did the blue color. You did it all. You built the credibility. You got the trust. You got the clients. You served them. You got the success. Your track record is proven now. Now you can wear a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Because you did it already.
Yeah.
But it's very different just starting from zero, and you want business people to take you seriously, and you don't have your track record yet.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. It makes a lot of sense, because these days I really don't care what I wear. I just want to wear something that I like. And, you know, last week we got 8 million views across our social platforms. And, you know, that number is growing and it's trending up. And so there's just a part of me that's like, oh, what is the authentic me? Because these days I care really just about what is authentic, which just means I don't care what anybody thinks. I just want to be true to who I am.
Well, this is what's so freaking interesting about this whole branding thing. It's like you have to position yourself a certain way to get noticed, respected, and credibility. Once you have it,
doesn't matter.
Now it doesn't matter. Now you go completely back and just be completely authentic and open, because now they care about more of who you are because you did all the stuff that they...
weird? That is so weird. I had a season of suits. I had a season of dressing a certain way. Things had to be a certain way. I remember like the scripts from my speeches were all polished and freaking just all pre-made, and I hated it. I hated how everything was contrived to try to build a message for the world that said, I'm safe, I'm a good risk, I know what I'm talking about, I'm established, I have track record. And it's like, it's just weird. And part of me was wondering if that's actually, if the principle that you're saying is true, or are we also moving into a world where it's also a little bit hip and cool to actually just do you?
Both. It's both.
It's both.
It's 100% both. And, you know, we're in a different you and me on the same generation, right? We're Gen X. But for the newer generation,
they don't know that. They think I'm millennial.
Well,
Kris is the most responsible millennial I've ever met. I'm like, that's because technically I'm not a millennial.
But you understand the way they see things is completely different than the older generation. Anybody who's 40 and up sees things differently than 35 and down, right? Yeah. So we also have to be clear who's our demographic. That's something, we can't just talk about branding and just be this like branding's the thing and there's nothing else. We have to be clear we are branding ourselves to what demographic, and that changes how we operate as well.
Yeah, so that's another weird thing. So before I actually went online and got social, my avatar of real estate and financial investments really catered to 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds, and it was weird because I was in my 30s talking to people twice my age that had been 401king and IRAing, and that was my demographic. That's who wanted to buy my product. They're like, well, I've been financially conservative my whole life, and I really feel like I want to shift methods for retirement from 401ks to real estate. And I actually hated my demographic, if I'm just being honest, because they kind of just felt old. I felt like I should be dressed in like a Roger, who's that guy that we grew up
Mr.
with?
Rogers?
Mr. Rogers vest, and should be conservative and always wear a button up and a tie. And I was like, that's not me. And when social kind of hit, it started to become very relieving, where I'm like, oh, dude, these people really, they care about my energy, they care about my message, and they care about the way that I convey myself. They're a lot less interested in everything else. Although my demographic really responded to my cars, my houses, these days my jets, like that. There's a pull that, and actually, if I'm being honest, I also hate that too. Like, it's almost like in my financial space, my competitors, if you will, I don't really believe in competition, but like the people that are in my niche, they're like, well, we gonna be a little douchey, right? I like, watch me drive my supercar and pull up to my mansion house so I can take my helicopter to my private pool atop the mountain as I get back from the Galapagos from my private yacht. And I'm like, oh, like there's a part of that it's weird, because in some of my videos, when I actually show myself just being a little bit more normal, people would start ripping on me. Like one time in one of my videos, I just had sandals on, and they're like, dude, I thought this guy was rich and had money. What's he doing wearing sandals? I'm like, dude, don't knock on Jesus. Jesus wore sandals too. Or like someone watched me have these headphones on. They're like, he doesn't even have the AirPod Pros. Like, who does he think he is? I'm like, geez, freaking fry me if I'm not wearing, and it's ironic because today I'm wearing my Gucci coat or whatever. Because sometimes I do wear like brand name this and that. But it's kind of weird because the world is like super judgmental. And sometimes I get in my head a little bit like, I really don't care what all of these mother truckers are thinking about, but they do. I'm like, ugh. There, well, now you feel all my brand frustration, okay?
Well, heck yeah, and I'm so grateful that you shared it, because I'm not alone now.
Okay, so you feel it.
I have 57 jackets sitting in a storage unit right now.
Yeah.
57.
Like nice sports coats, right?
Like custom shit. Like, yes. We're talking like
yes.
$100,000+ in just jackets alone.
Yeah.
Not the shoes, not the belts, just jackets. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I was literally talking.
But I got to say, you always looked good.
Well, but I mean, thank you, first of all. I think in anything, like even when I was doing the fitness days and I was in shorts and a tank top, that was by far my favorite outfits ever. And especially living in Florida, I think I always look good, because looking good is something that's important for myself, right?
Yeah.
Does it make a difference? Yeah, it makes a difference, because people are attracted to nice things. As human beings, we're attracted to things that look nice.
So I actually wanted to ask you this question, because there are some people that I meet that like, they really want to grow their influence. And I'm like, yeah, but you kind of look like shit. Like, you don't look like you put any energy into just even caring for yourself. Like, you don't even know how to do your hair. You just don't. And it's not that they're going for a cool, messy style. It's just like, yeah, it's like someone never pulled them aside and said, hey, did you know you're growing hair out of your ears? Maybe shave that.
Because it was never taught that was important to them, or it just has never been in their life.
But is it even important anymore? Like, it seems like people can get away with anything.
Yes and no, right? Because if it wasn't important, there wouldn't be all these makeover shows on TV where they bring mom and then they dress her up and do her hair and she looks like a different person.
Yeah.
Which also at the same time is kind of like, what? So this whole time we've been saying that mom looks like shit, right? Like, we had to bring her to the show and national public and make her over that she's that bad, right? So, but that is the society we live in.
That's interesting. When I was 26, financially free, at 27, I started my own real estate investment club. And I remember I went to this guy I knew. He had this insurance company. He had a list, and he mailed. I paid to mail 2,000 pieces out, and he got like 70 people in the room. And I've never done a presentation in front of a group before. And I was like, at 27, I looked 14. Like, it was just weird. I couldn't grow a beard yet, really didn't have facial hair, and I just looked young. And I remember throwing a suit on. It was like super oversized. My tie was really fat. I wore it way too long. And I saw a picture of myself, and I was just like, I look ridiculous. But then I didn't even know who I was supposed to be. I had no idea how I was supposed to kind of put myself out there. And I guess where I do feel like brand does matter as far as personal brand goes is if you're not comfortable in your own skin, if you're not comfortable in how you look or what you drive or how you dress, then you're probably going to be uncomfortable when you start trying to meet your tribe, gather your people.
I agree, but it's very interesting because I've actually had personal experience in this. So back in the day when I was wearing all the custom suits, right? My team around me, I made them dress up because they had to look like I looked. Otherwise, it made me look bad. But if I take it back one step further, before any of the custom suits, I got hired to coordinate the event and do all the video production for these 4 insurance agents. They were like the top agents in the country, and they created this organization called the Agency Sales Academy. And they were teaching other insurance agents how to become the top agents in their industry. They did this event, and I had, I remember I had like my Express shirt and my slacks, and after the event, they said, Ray, what an amazing event. Everybody loved you. Thank you so much. You did such a great job. Instead of 1 event a year, we're going to do 2 events a year. But there's one thing. Moving forward, we like you to wear a suit and tie.
Huh.
And I'm 20-something. I'm like 25, 26. And I'm like, I don't do that. Like, I don't wear ties. Like, I look good. I'm in good shape. And I'm like, I don't do that. But we all wear suits and ties. And this is our audience. And you're a representation of us. So we want you to wear a suit and tie. I wasn't going to lose the gig, and they were paying me $50,000 an event, so I'm not going to lose this opportunity. So back then, I went to Ross and Marshall's, and I just bought a bunch of jackets. And I'll never forget, I was running the Miami chapter of GKIC. Do you remember Dan Kennedy and Glacier Dan Kennedy back in the day?
Yeah.
So I was running the Miami chapter, and I'll never forget walking in the very first time with one of those jackets it was a Tommy Hilfiger or I don't know where that I got from Ross or from Marshall's. And I walked in, the lady at the front desk of the hotel said, wow. And she complimented me. As I walked through the halls, everyone complimented me. I got more compliments that day in that jacket than I've ever gotten in my life.
Was that just the avatar of those people?
No, because it was the lady at the front desk. I did look good, right? It was a nice jacket. You know how it is when you put on a nice jacket.
Yeah.
You look sharp and you stand out.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget how I felt after that. And because of that, I bought more jackets, and it was great. People would always compliment you.
$100,000 of jackets.
$100,000 of custom jackets with my name in it eventually. But the long story short, then my team, I was like, look, dude, we need to go shopping. We need to go to Ross and Marshall's, and we need to get you some jackets. But I'll never forget what happened to them. As they put on nicer clothes, they started getting complimented. They started seeing the difference. So even though I'm not as comfortable wearing a nice suit, like it's not my preference what I want, I'm 1,000% aware of the image and attraction that it creates. The same way that when I pull up in my Aston Martin or I pull up in my i8 and I open my door like that, people want to take pictures and are attracted to me. Does that change my value or worth? No, but it 1,000,000% it changes the attraction towards me. And that's really what we got to talk about when we talk about personal branding. It's not whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, or you like it or I like it. What's our goal?
Yeah.
What are we trying to achieve? Because in the end of the day...
It's kind of weird, though, because I honestly still am in conflict on this, because it's like, okay, so the goal is to get my mission out to the world, to create value, to produce revenue. So I'm going to dress this way because I get the best response from these people.
Because you get more attention.
But what if that isn't actually, like, what if it just doesn't feel true to me?
Well...
What if it feels inauthentic? That's like the one thing that just pisses me off more than anything, is doing something that just doesn't feel me.
So I feel the same way. And this is something that I've been challenging myself and I've been going through. I think there's a time and a place for everything. I think there is, and maybe because of this interview, I'm actually going to create like this chart, like this little journey as you build your brand. Because when I start mentally thinking about it in my structure brain, I'm like, once you get to these little pillars As you pass these benchmarks, things change. You don't, because think about it. People watch your videos and they watch my videos and they get to see our suits and they get to see our cars and they get to see us on stage and they get to see us doing everything we're talking about, whether we like it or not, it's still there. It's not like we're erasing everything and are going to t-shirt and shorts, because if we went back to all of our videos and we can magically change how we're dressed and all of a sudden we're driving a Toyota Corolla, I don't know if we would still have the same type of credibility that we have today. Like, I stop and I think about it. And even though I don't love showing off things that I love, because I love cars, whether it was beneficial to my business or not, I'd still love cars like you do. It's something I would do if nobody knew about it. But when people see me, my i8 or my Aston Martin or whatever it is, there's an attraction. And if people went online and searched Ray Perez, have never seen Ray Perez again, and they only saw videos of me driving I just don't know if it would have the same attraction.
So I guess the big thing that I'm getting from this is when you are accidental, unconscious, don't have a brand because you haven't thought through it, hire a specialist, work with someone, and learn how to become intentional. It's like learn how to think through the perception of everyone in your audience, because if you're a nobody and you have to find a way to find a crowd to get into, it's not going to happen with an unintentional brand.
That's the key,
and
intentionality.
And then if you can actually build that brand to something meaningful at some point, you have a large enough following and you've got good marketing strategies where at some point you can probably have your brand shift more into just being who you are. Because for me, what I show online is also just true to who I am. And so there's this, for the most part, I would say, for the most part, it just feels congruent, where it's just like, yo, what you see online or what you see at my event is also what my friends see when they're like having a personal experience with me and there's no cameras around. Like, I'm just me no matter what. And I just think that's so important to me. And so I think just that whole notion of branding versus marketing, right? I want to shift into marketing a little bit, because branding is the game of how I think you present yourself to the world. Marketing is the game of how you produce an ROI for your business. Yeah. And I'm running a campaign. I'm paying money to get this particular message out because I have a strategy on how I'm going to monetize that. And I'm going to turn that into revenue for my company. Yep. Two very, very different things, but it seems like they need each other a little bit.
Well, I mean, they don't live independently, right? They are together. It's about how intentional and how laser focused and how strategic you can be and leveraging both. And I think you nailed it with the key word of intentionality. And being intention with your brand and what you want to do with your brand, how you want to leverage your brand, who you want to influence, who you want to connect with, who you want to impact is the key. And like you said, having a professional assist you in that will save a lot of time, a lot of money. And most of the time is actually way more valuable than money. A lot of people are like, oh, it's too expensive. Well, you're going to spend a lot more figuring it out on your own and doing it.
Geez, that's true.
So yeah. I really want to stress that out, because some people are like, I don't have the money. Trust me, you're going to spend the money regardless. And I'd rather you do it now and see the results than wait till it's too late and then have spent more time and money. But here's the thing. There are certain people, even Gary Vee, if you look back, way back before before social media, when he was doing the wine business, he's in suits.
Wow.
Tony Robbins doesn't wear no suit on stage.
No, he doesn't.
Go back to the 90s when Tony Robbins started and go look at his presentations.
He wears suits
in a suit.
Stage.
I don't think, now, in the world of business, because if we start talking about being an influencer in the business of being a brand, that's a separate conversation. But in the world of business, if you are an entrepreneur, if you have a business, I don't think anyone starts off not presenting themselves in a way where it elevates their perception of value in the world. I don't think anybody does. Now, whether you need to continue to do it as you grow your brand, that's a completely different story. And I think you get to be a little bit more of your authentic self as you grow, like you and I are doing. You're wearing a t-shirt, I'm wearing a t-shirt, right? I'm not wearing long sleeves, right? I feel comfortable. I mean, but I can do that now. I don't feel, and I know you don't feel, that you have to wear a jacket. Mm-mm. Now, there are some events that we'll both put on a jacket because we just know it's the appropriate thing to do in that audience, right? You're not going to go to a wedding and not wear the tuxedo. right? So there's a difference between being true and authentic to your brand and being aware of your surroundings and your audience. That's something we got to be really clear about.
You know what? This is kind of private. It's a little intimate, but years ago in my church, I had an opportunity to meet someone that was very high up in the church's leadership hierarchy. And in my community, this was a very, very rare and very special invitation. And I already knew what the dress code should have been. It should have been a white shirt, tie, and suit. And that was at a time in my life when I was getting so far away from that because it just didn't feel true to me. And so I remember thinking to myself, do I want to dress the part that is expected, or do I want to be true to myself? Well, I decided to put on a kind of a button-up color shirt without a tie, and just kind of tucked it into my jeans with a with a belt, and I went to lunch. And I remember that the handful of people that were invited were all basically in dark suits, white shirt and ties, and I stuck out like a sore thumb. And I remember when I got there, I learned this very valuable lesson. On the one hand, I was very proud of me for choosing to be authentic. On the other hand, I was disappointed because I had an opportunity to be a part of something, and I chose to dress in a manner that had me stick out. And if I had to do it all over again, I would put the suit on.
You would or would not?
I would have. Because that moment wasn't so much about being authentic as much as communicating respect.
That's it.
And
that's the difference.
And I wasn't respecting the environment and the people that were there. And it's weird. I think about it even right now. I haven't thought about this since then. I just and I feel bad about it. And I wish I had done it different. And so this has been a little bit, brand has been a little bit of a conflicting journey. I feel fortunate these days that I think I got a large enough crowd. And I don't think they care, and I don't care. I just being me, and I'm doing me. And but I also think that has to lend itself to the times and seasons. There is a theory out there. There's a book called The Fourth Turning, and it will talk about 80-year cycles. And it'll talk about a pendulum that swings through history and time. And every 40 years, the pendulum swings one way, and then 40 years later, it swings back the other. And we go from being hyper casual society, free love, no rules, buck the system, wild music, all the way to the other side where it's just like crisp, formal, well-dressed, following the rules. And this pendulum, they've tracked it, I think, for 3,000 years. They have evidences of how it goes back and forth. And so part of me wonders if the 90s was the era of suits and formality. And I wonder if the pendulum is swinging hardcore now really towards this super informal energy. And I wonder what that has to do with any of this.
Yeah, no, I think, first of all, thank you for sharing and being so open. And that's what I want people to understand. There is a difference between being authentic in your true self and being conscious and aware and respectful of your surroundings, that's your environment. And I love giving this example. Mark Zuckerberg. He's always known for wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie, right? But once he started going in front of Congress, what was he wearing?
A suit every time.
Every time. Yes, sir.
That's actually a really good example that he didn't want to piss off that administration.
The first couple times he went in there, he was casual. If you look back in the history and the recordings and everything, but ever since then, never again. Suit and tie, yes sir, yes ma'am.
He's communicating respectfully. He's toning down the sass.
And I guarantee his team told him you're
gonna have a better outcome if you respect the circumstance.
And I think that's it. I think that's really what it comes down to. When it comes to your brand, if you're respecting the circumstance, if you're respecting the audience, you're going to have a better outcome. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Yeah. But it's going to make things easier for you.
So let's shift gears. We're talking about a day and age when it feels like if you do have a business, even if you don't, there's an opportunity for everyone to develop a personal brand.
Yeah.
And that wasn't true 20 years ago.
No.
It was like if you go back to ancient media, like infomercials, television, radio, it seemed like compared to today, there was a very select few that had the opportunity to, basically put themselves out there and derive some level of fame from that. Today, social media, even since the emergence of TikTok, it's like, there are so many people that are coming forth, and I don't look at them as competition. It's just there's so many new people in the space that are now feeling comfortable putting themselves out there. My question to you is, does everyone or just business owners need a personal brand these days?
So this is where it becomes very interesting, because when it's in the world of business, we now are leveraging a personal brand to make money or to get our product or service out there. But for an average person who does not have a business, does not have a product or a service, they now can, through the power of social media, become the product or service and get paid and build a business off of it. Now, traditional advertising has shifted. It went from TV, radio, newspaper, and magazines to now social media. And ad budgets are now being shifted over to what we refer to as influencers. Back in the day, we only had celebrities. Now, we still have celebrities, but celebrities are people who are on TV, movies, radio. Those are celebrities. People on social medias are influencers, which in a microcosm are mini celebrities, right? But now advertisers will pay these influencers to put their products in front of their audiences. And they're now splitting the ad budget from TV, radio, and print to now influencers.
Yeah.
And there's influencers, there's mini influencers, there's micro influencers. There's actually categories of influencers now, and there's actually pay rates and schedules based on influencers.
Yeah, so it's interesting. My buddy Grant Thompson, when he was alive, he had his channel, King of Random, one of the top 100 YouTubers in the world, over 1 billion views. Wow. And he would create all these science experiment, home-based projects where parents and kids could come together and basically just kind of experience the wonderful world of science. He would make stuff, he'd blow stuff up, he'd try things. And people all over the world absolutely loved him. And I remember that he would get paid $4,000 or $5,000, sometimes more, to basically sponsor a commercial during one of his ads. And he would have, if he was making something with Legos, then Legos would sponsor him. And if he was making something with a popular chemical, then that chemical product would sponsor him. And a very significant source of his revenue just came from doing ads, for these advertisers because of his level of influence.
This is a whole new world that's been created. This is a whole new demographic. And even and I actually like to use you as the example, because you first had a business, you became an influencer, and you leveraged the influence for your business. Yep. But you're at a point where you also can monetize off your influence separately from your business.
Yeah.
And not every business owner can do that, but it's a very interesting thing when we talk about personal branding, how you can now create new revenue streams that were never available, even with the same business model.
Yep.
Only because what's different is your personal brand.
Well, and what's interesting is personal brand. What's interesting, I think, to advertisers is they can get really niche specific right now. Instead of like, oh, we're gonna pay to go on this broad watched channel. It's like, like, go find the channels and the viewership and see the active participations and the commenting. And it's very, very, very powerful. But I want to bring it back to this idea then. Do you think everyone or just business owners should have a personal brand?
It depends if they want to make money.
Because, dude, if I had to go back in time and I didn't have a business, I would have said, Kris, you better develop your personal brand. It's like, why? Well, listen, I think the crowd of people I hang out with, and I think it's a pretty substantial crowd, deep down feel that there's a purpose to their life. And at the end of the day, whatever that purpose is, usually it's something that we're trying to share with the world. There's no easier way to share whatever that is with the world than social media. I mean, it is a bullhorn that anyone can get their hands on these days. It's kind of funny to me when I read my comments. It's people that don't actually build their own social channels. They can derive significance just from literally going online and commenting in a positive way, or they can be trolls and comment in a negative way. And it's like they're hijacking. It's like, oh my gosh, look, there's 3 million views on this video. I want to see if I can make a noise, raise hell by commenting like crazy about this one thing. And then look, I'm not an influencer, but I cheated and I'm getting seen by 12 people or 100 people. And so it's like, on the one hand, people are kind of desperate for that. But really, I think if anyone feels like they have a mission and a purpose, we care, I think, sometimes about the quantity that we get it out to. It's like, I've got this huge mission on my heart. I want to share it with one soul. Said nobody.
Yeah.
It's like, no, if you could share it with 100, you would, but if you could share it with 1,000, that'd be better. If you could share it with 1,000,000, that would be best. And so it's like, I don't know, part of me wonders, it's like, shoot, if you feel that you have a higher calling or a mission or a message that the world needs to hear, and you don't have a business, I'd still get on social media and start trying to, increase that fame.
Well, I wouldn't say that everyone should build their personal brand, only because I don't like to should on anyone. I'm just not a should'er. But
I like to shit on people.
Well, you can shit all over the place.
All day long. Like I tell people, you should not follow Dave Ramsey.
There you go.
Unless you want to be poor. That's some hardcore shitting.
So for me, it's more about everyone can benefit from it. There's no doubt, Kris, whatsoever that everyone can benefit by having a greater personal brand, because for me, I benefit off my personal brand, how I support my church, how I support my nonprofit. I can do such greater things because of my personal brand in areas that are near and dear to my heart than just making money in my business.
Okay. So let's just say that someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, so I think I might be interested in growing a personal brand. Where do they start? Keep it basic.
So I always bring it down to the 3 V's.
3 V's.
Yes. How to build your brand identity. Your visual identity, your verbal identity, and your value identity. Visual, verbal, and value. Number 1 is what people see, because that's how we're attracted to things. That's why TikTok and Instagram are the top social medias on the planet, because it's all visual. So your brand colors, the typography you use, the photos you have of yourself, the whole look and feel of how something is, that's your visual identity. Now, your verbal identity is what you say. And what you say is actually the most important part, because that's what's going to bring people in, that's what's going to push them, that's what's going to keep them engaged. In marketing, it's called copywriting. And that's why copywriters are some of the top paid professionals on the planet, because one piece of copy can make somebody $100,000 or can make them $1 million, right? And you could take a beautiful landing page with horrible copy and it's not going to convert. Or you can take the most basic, shitty looking landing page, and guess what? With great copy, like Dan Kennedy being the perfect example, millions of dollars.
So you're saying people should care about what they're portraying, the topography, the climate, what's in their background, am I in my bedroom, what I'm wearing, did I do my hair right, am I grooming myself? So there's that part.
Which is the visual.
Then you've got the messaging, which is what am I talking about? What is the content?
Correct. And then there's the value. What do you stand for? Why do you do what you do? What do you stand for? What's your mission? What's your purpose?
And people care about the why.
Well, think about it. You are the perfect example.
No. People don't listen if you don't have a why. It feels like these days it's like you're white noise. You're noise until you can show me that there's a reason why you do what you do.
Well, that's because we're human beings. Emphasis on the word being. We're energetic. We can feel someone's energy. And that's why someone like yourself and me who are very passionate, they can feel that. It's a frequency. It's a vibration. That's why this planet is vibrating. We're all vibrating at a frequency. So, and it's actually proven, studied, that your heart sends out a frequency. Yeah. So when people can connect with your heart frequency, it doesn't matter what you're selling. If they have a need, they're going to buy from you. Yeah. And if they don't have a need, they're going to still be a promoter of you to other people.
No, it's interesting. So when if you think about all the people watching online, and then very small percentage of them will come to a live event. And at my last event, I got kind of curious, and because I was trying to make a point, and I just said, hey, so I want, what attracts you guys to me? And people were shouting out different things, but 90% of what was said was my energy. And what they're responding to is the level of passion and energy, which, by the way, turns some people off. Some people are like, dude, you are such a spaz. Like, man, it's like, is that your 19th cup of coffee today? It's like, no, I don't drink caffeine. Yeah. I'm just a high energy human being, right? And that's part of I think the value is they're like, oh, I want to follow someone that feels deeply. I want to follow someone that cares. And sometimes I have a hard time motivating myself. And when I see that guy's energy, that motivates me. It's like, if he can do it, I can do it. And so that's actually really interesting that the value, I don't want anyone to think that value proposition has to be something like, oh, are you rich? Do you drive nice cars? Do you have resources that cost a lot of money? And I'm like, actually, value is intrinsic.
Yep.
It's what's in you that people are responding to. The question is whether you have the courage to share it.
Yeah, and that energy you talk about that you have is your passion. And people can feel passion. It's not just energy, because there can be bad energy. There can be uncontrolled energy, right? Your energy is focused because you're passionate about what you do. You're passionate about serving your audience. You care. And that comes through in that passionate energy, and that's what people receive.
So the 3 V's, visual,
Verbal,
value. And then other than that, just have the courage to start regularly posting, right?
And that's where the marketing comes in, right? Because once we've established what you look like, what your message is, and what you stand for, we've built the brand, right?
It's
now
simple.
The brand is built.
Yeah.
Now,
even if it doesn't feel so well thought out, or I didn't spend forever on it, it's like, but you have something to start with.
And let's be honest. Do you stay the same as you?
No, I evolve.
We all evolve.
We're evolving.
So fine. So this is the brand today,
Yeah.
and this brand can be something different 6 months, 12 months from today. That's totally okay. Just understand that you're not like in stone, this is my brand forever, right? But it's somewhere to start, and it's something to declare to the world. Now we get into marketing the brand.
Got it. I've been at odds with branding, and I think today I got a lot of clarity. I got a lot of value. Listen, you're an expert in this space. If someone wants to connect with you and just learn more from you, how do they do that?
Best way to connect with me is on my personal site, Perez360.com. Basically, all my links, all my medias, all in one place. If they want to learn more about personal branding and really how to dive in the 3 V's, I have an entire course that I'd love to give your audience if that's okay with you. All they got to do is just go to Perez360.com, click the contact button, click send text me your full name and best email.
And you're going to give them that?
And it's a $500 course that I usually give. But if they're listening to the show, I really, look, I want to lead with giving. That's my value. It's always about giving, giving. And I believe the law of reciprocity always kicks in. If I'm a giver and people feel my heart, they're gonna be like, I like this guy. And if they like what I do, then they're gonna wanna do business with me. And that's how I believe I've been successful.
Wow. Ray, thank you so much for sharing your philosophy. Thank you for sharing that free gift. Perez360.com. Text you, and they can get that $500 free branding course.
Yep.
Amazing, man. Hey, thanks for being on. Thank you for letting me poke holes and play around with this notion of branding, authenticity. When does it feel fake? When is it real? How long do you have to do it? Is it for starters? Is it not for the ending? Really appreciate all of your expertise on this. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining us today on the Kris Krohn Show, and we'll see you on the next one.